format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
When they wave the green flag, you take off. Black flag means get the hell off the track.
Get the hell off the track on the black flag.
That's it, you understand me?
Tell me about the checker flag.
I wouldn't worry about that checkered flag if I was you, boy.
Shrewd, man. Shrewd. Don't worry about the checkered flag, man. It happens to the best of them. This is hashtag Real Race Talk, and we are coming to you from Texas Monday night. Soon there'll be Monday Night Football. We'll have great competition once again.
We will, and then it'll be really rough when we have Monday Night Football fighting against us. So.
Yeah, but nobody cares about football. So we'll continue to do Monday night shows. This is the Revved Up Sports Show, and we have a great program coming to you this great Monday. We got Michael Dabney, going to talk to him at 6:45. Then we're going to talk to Clayton Green about 7:10. Then we'll talk to the winner of the Oxford 250, Cassius Clark. How about that?
That'll be fun. Hopefully he doesn't have as big of an accent as Phil Whipple has, and we'll be able to not have to put up the translator on the bottom of the screen when they come across the screen. But,
Yeah.
You gotta love Phil. Phil did a hell of a job, though, this weekend for us, being the Northeast correspondent at the World Center of Northeast Racing there at the Oxford 250. So Phil did a damn good job.
And then speaking of Phil Whipple, I'm going to talk to him probably around 7:50, 7:50. We'll get the, on-site reporter right there. I mean, the dude reached out and he's like, I'm going to be there. I'd love to have some content for you. And great. I mean, he did some great work. I mean, he talked to Bubba Pollard. He talked to Stephen Nasi. He talked to all these guys. He did a really, really good job and much appreciated there. But we'll talk to him here in just a little bit. So, Bobby, your weekend, my man. How was it, my friend? How was it? Good weekend.
It was surprising to have a weekend off.
Dude, that was the weirdest part for me.
Yeah, I didn't have to go anywhere. Didn't have to do any races. Didn't have to call any races. Just got to sit down in front of the TV, enjoy a beverage or two, and watched a fairly decent cup race, a regular season finale there from Daytona, so that was fun.
Yep.
Thought the Xfinity Series race earlier in the day that we got to watch after we got back from doing the Saturday show, I thought the finish of that one was a hell of a good finish. But all in all, I got some stuff done in between the two races on Saturday. And then Sunday, it was just weird. I slept a little late on Sunday morning and caught up on a few things and then just pretty much chilled out on Sunday, which is kind of a weird deal because, no cup racing on Sunday. So that was, overall had a good weekend. Not too terribly bad.
Speaking of that, grab your cool one and talk some racing with us. We have these koozies and we can get you one too. But great weekend. And here's one thing I want to talk about. And I know that, We watched the finale over at Heart of Texas. They wrapped up just a great season number 55, and everything that was just a great year of racing at Heart of Texas Speedway. Everything wrapped up there. The season, champions were crowned and so forth. But here is where it's about to get really, really good. This factory stock thing. I think Race on Texas with their power rankings thing, we've been a part of that as well. But, I mean, these guys have been, calculating, number crunching, 900 drivers, 300 races. It's really coming down to it now. I know they're doing a live thing on Race on Texas. I'll be a part of that on Thursday coming up at 7 o'clock. But these power rankings are really coming down to it because my man Hop from Hot has been unbeatable. But he stubbed his toe a couple of, not stubbed his toe, but he's had some problems here right at the end of the season, kind of doing the old Bobby Allison there where things just don't quite work out. There's a race happening tonight that is really going to shake this stuff up because you've got racing happening at Texas Motor Speedway on the dirt track, and I think it's about to come to a head right here. And this is where we're probably about to see how these formulas are working.
Well, it's a good thing we get to see the formula. Sorry, I'm digging in a bag looking for my tablet that I forgot to get out before the start of the show. But,
nice.
The way that this whole deal worked is that Hopkins was really consistent at the beginning of the year. And his performance, I won't say dropped off, but he set such a high pace for himself at the beginning of the season, such a high standard, that when he stopped winning multiple races and only winning every other week and, not performing to the standard he set for himself, it opened up the door to these power rankings, and it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out coming next week.
Well, I think part of that was, I mean, everything stepped up there at Heart of Texas. I mean, Shannon Duloc, just he had some problems there for a while. James Schoenrock, I mean, Michael Gannett, all these guys that race at Waco, they really came for this, and they stepped up the game, and that's how it got so good right there at the end. So that's coming up, and there's a huge race tonight. So I know on the Thursday thing, there's going to be some conversation there about the more details about being in the top 50 and for the race at Cotton Bowl for the finale. So that's coming up. So that'll be good for the Oktoberfest. So that's coming up on Thursday. Speaking of that, I see our man Logan Boyette checking in, and man, we have just got to give. I mean, so much love, and I mean, we're praying for the folks over along the southeast Gulf Coast right there. I mean, we have become so. I mean, we've always been fans of that, but luckily this year we have gotten to be a part of that racing family. I mean, we know that trip. I mean, it's so weird for me now when I watch the Weather Channel endlessly because I just get fixated on these hurricanes and everything that's happening. I mean, to sit there and watch, and when they're talking about these, distinct places, I'm like, I know exactly where that is, and I mean, it's
been right there. Know that bridge. Know where that camera's at. All that stuff.
Absolutely, man. And we see Louisiana. I mean, so much of Louisiana still tore up from the last time, and I mean, it's man, that sucks. I mean, I would love to live on the coast, but that would scare the shit out of me every time.
Well, that's the one advantage Corpus has. You can live on the beach and still not be affected by hurricanes. Although Corpus is fortunately due. It's due for a big one coming up here.
Oh
late,
man, yeah, they've been lucky.
Been really lucky over the last 25, 30 years. But yeah, tough break there for our friends in Louisiana. Looks like the New Orleans has survived more so than when it did with Katrina. So it was weird. 16 years to the day that Katrina hit is the same day that Ida hit.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's like, and these things are so odd. I mean, I sat up late watching this thing, and it's like it intensified. I mean, we knew it was going to be bad. But it caught some steam there, and it's done. It's done some really, really bad stuff there. And I mean, please, revvedupsportsshow@gmail.com. I mean, let us know. I mean, I know we're a long ways away. And when people always say, anything that we can do to help, I mean, there's going to be, I think what we as a racing family need to do is we need to be prepared because we're going to start seeing links to where we can go in. I mean, $5, $10, anything that's going to help the folks that are stuck there. And I mean, seriously, we need to think about it because it's so many people that we know. I mean, it really is our people that are just struggling with this stuff.
And it's not just New Orleans. Like we said, we talked to our show friend Logan Boyette. He lives in Pensacola, and they've been getting a ton of rain. We saw some of the pictures today from the Gulf Coast Racing Series there at Mobile. Our buddy Chad Deere in their waist-deep water trying to unclog the drain to keep the place afloat, so to speak. And, it's been one of those, one of those storms. It's affected the entire Gulf Coast, really, if you look at the outer bands and everything else. So it lots of damage. I'm sure there'll be some tornadoes and stuff sprung up as it tries to go up, up the coast and through the mountains and stuff like that if it doesn't get torn apart. But yeah, she was a real packing a punch. So that it's good to see that the New Orleans survived with what I would call minimal damage comparatively to what some other stuff was. Looks like the people heeded the warning and got the hell out of there.
Well, I think a lot of it was. I saw something today where they were talking about all the stuff that they learned, from 16 years ago. I mean, that everything was better this time. They were better prepared for it. But it's so hard to be prepared for that to happen. And this is where, we have to think of each other, not just with our racing family. I mean, we need to think of it just as human beings. I mean, we need to empathize and care about this. And like I said, we're going to see ways that we can help out. And I know that we both will, and we can use this show to try to help, in any way that we can. But, anything, $5, $10, whatever it's going to be, let's take care of each other. I think that's where the one thing with as many bad things that we see in the country, it does really seem like when we have things like this is where we all come together, and it kind of reaffirms what our country's all about.
Yeah, we'll see everybody come together. No doubt about that, especially the racing family. Everybody kind of pulls together in the same direction every time you see some kind of natural disaster or some kind of strange event happen. So I'm anticipating this time being no different. So far, so good, at least from the racing people that we know. Nothing has catastrophe happened to anybody on that front, so that's good. But the reports still need to come in, and this thing needs to pass all the way through before we find out exactly if anybody in the racing community actually needs something.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. So it was cool. We did see this weekend Michael Dabney coming up here in just a minute, but it was really cool. You had 37 racing, you had South Texas racing, and I think I did see from everything that I saw. I mean, we did see where that competition right there. And again, I mean, I know that folks are trying to get race dates lined up. I mean, South Texas has been struggling to try to get races in, but I think both tracks felt the brunt of trying to run, at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so many cars that can be used on that I-37 corridor as you roll down into Corpus. So, I think the biggest thing is you didn't have all three of them running, with Texana being off until next Sunday on the 5th. So I think that it's one thing that was able to make it as exciting as it was. But it looks like the racing action from both classes, or both tracks rather, was actually really good from everything that we saw. The live videos we saw from Corpus, and then kind of glancing at it there at Race on Texas on Saturday night, here and there on my phone. So.
And the good thing is, both well attended, and that's really the main thing. I mean, you need to see these tracks. I mean, you need to have people go there. I mean, people need to go and support them and just get themselves out there to keep these things going. But, yeah, good night. I really did like, talk about this with the limited modifieds at South Texas. You had Tanner Whitmire winning, Jared Maupin right there. I mean, that's a good top two. Trent Beaver, the third-place car. Memphis wins in the factory stocks. Of course, the factory stocks were a little bit lower because you had so many over at the other track. So I think the tricky part there was you had both tracks running late models, which is, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
And it was kind of surprising. I think Jared was the points leader at I-37 rolling in and made the decision to go down to South Texas Speedway. I know a couple of weeks ago when South Texas Speedway was running head-to-head against Texana, Jared made the decision to run in Corpus that weekend too. So they, it's good to see him with all the options to race, and he's always running good. So that's a hot commodity to have when you're sitting there, racing between a couple of different tracks.
Yeah. One of the things, speaking of the weekend that's coming up, I mean, talking about race weekends, I mean, you got Texana will have the big Sunday show, and that's going to be great right there. I like the way that the scheduling lines up right there for them, that they don't have, other stuff going on. I mean, and Owen has, those Sunday shows have been really, really good, and I think that it's going to be for him once again, especially with nothing else happening on a 3-day weekend. But the Houston discussion has come up. Why did that cancel? And I think that's a very tough situation there for Gina. I can't tell you how many people have asked me. I don't really know the logic behind it. I was never the biggest fan of the back-to-back, especially coming up when you're going to try to run the 10,000 to win truck race. That right there is, doomed to failure, if you ask me, especially when you've been off for a while. But that's a tough call right there. I'm sure there's lots that went into that, but for Gina, it's she's hoping to do that later, hoping to reschedule that race. But that call killed her. I can promise you, because I talked with her. She called me, and she's like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And it's tough. It's tough for her, but, it's just kind of one of those things that had to be done.
Yeah, it is one of the things that need to be done, and unfortunately. And so it's part of racing. Races get postponed. A lot of times we notice it by Mother Nature a lot before. Now we're noticing it by other factors too. So, just don't bash the promoter. There's thoughts, rhymes, and reasons for everything. A lot of it we won't know, but still support the racetrack when it is open.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. Support your racetrack, friends. That is what it's all about. Let's go to the Advanced Auto Parts hotline tonight. How about that? Advanced Auto Parts hotline tonight. And we're going to talk to our first guest. It is a man that punched the ticket at Kennedale this past weekend. It is Michael Dabney. Michael, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Man, we are doing extremely well, my friend. How exciting was it for you to get that win at that track? That's one of those tracks you go out there and you win, and that's kick-ass.
Yeah, it was an absolute shocker. Definitely one I wanted to punch off my list for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Kennedale's a unique place. How different has it been? I hadn't been in a couple of years, but how different is the show running when they have to worry about running up against that nighttime curfew with the noise ordinance?
Well, it's definitely fast-paced. If you're not in the chute, they make sure to call you plenty in advance, but if you're not in the chute, they will roll the show without you.
Nice. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That is not a bad idea.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. So break it down, my man. Let everybody know. I mean, let's talk about you from starting out to getting going. I mean, remind everybody how this came to be for you as a great race car driver.
My dad and my grandpa started me at the age of 6 in go-karts. I ran IKF and WKA from 6 to 12. At the age of 12, I got into legend cars, and that was in 2001. I ran legend cars for 16 years. Around 2017, 2018, I sold my legend car and bought J. Coon Sport Mod. Really good friends with Justin Long, and he's the one that got me in sport mods and had that car sitting at his shop. So as soon as I sold the legend car, I got that car and been running that for the past 3-4 years, and had a bunch of ups and downs, motor problems, but we're finally getting on the right track. Out of probably 10 races this year, I've won 3 and had multiple top 3s. So we're going good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back and talk about the legend car days. A lot. You ran legend cars for a long time, ran at a lot of different tracks. For the people that we talk to that have run them and moved on to different types of vehicles, whether it be late models, dirt modifieds, super late models, whatever the case may be, they've always said that power to weight ratio in the legend cars makes them a better driver regardless of what they drive. What's your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. The throttle control that you have to learn in those cars really advances you to whatever you want to drive.
Oh.
You there?
Nope. There we go. There he is.
Just got the phone dropped.
You're back. I heard a thump.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good.
So what all of that did you catch?
We just heard the throttle to the throttle control.
Yeah, the throttle control in a legend car. If you can figure that out, you can learn just about any type of racing as much as I've taken on that.
Mm-hmm. And I agree, because I drove street stocks forever, and then I got in a dwarf car, and it was like, man, I think I finally learned how to drive way later. But yeah, I totally appreciate that. So for you, I mean, jumping in, going into dirt, I mean, such a great difference right there between the two. Does any of the asphalt stuff correlate to dirt for you? I'm sure it's based on track condition.
Yeah, it was definitely a big swing. Dry slick was definitely a lot harder to figure out, just because on asphalt you always drive in there and you can drive in so hard.
Yep.
And dry slick, you can't even think about driving in hard. As soon as that car steps out, you're screwing yourself. So, and then hammer down track is just balls to the wall. I mean,
love it.
Anybody can pretty much drive that track.
Yep.
So which track do you prefer? Do you prefer the dry slick? Do you prefer the thicker, muddier tracks? I mean, which one do you like better? Or is it just depend on the night and how good the hot rod's hooked up?
Well, after last weekend, I mean, I could do that all over again. But I mean, dry slick is easier to drive, but it's also easier for a lot of other people to drive. So it's, it makes it really hard to advance as much as you can. Dry slick is more of a driver track, and you have to be patient. Patience is very key, and so is track position. So I mean, if you start back farther, it's really hard. It's a lot more harder to advance through the field.
Mm-hmm.
And dry slick, because everybody goes so slow, and usually it's either one lane track, or it's hard to adjust around people. But I mean, I love them both. I like the challenge of a dry slick track, just because especially when it comes to big shows, that's what it's going to be. So I'd rather have a dry slick track to learn more on that and get better at that, so that when big shows come around, I'll be there.
Yeah, that's right. So let me ask you, so with that being said, and we were talking about the factory stocks a while ago, about the power rankings and all that stuff. Your thoughts on that class? I mean, you go to all these tracks and you see these factory stocks, and they're everywhere, and you have folks that used to race modifieds and used to race, in sport mods that are jumping into factory stocks. I mean, your thought on that class, is that something that kind of piques your interest?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the big shows that they're having, I mean, they're popping up everywhere for big money. So I think
Mhm.
that's catching a lot of people's eyes too. That I mean, they're running for as big as money as a modified or anywhere else, and a lot of different tracks are putting up some big money for that. So I would definitely, I wouldn't mind running one. I mean, I ran my very first dirt car I ran was for Jeff Martinez. He put me in a street stock probably when I was like 15 years old.
Yeah.
But I've never been in a factory stock. Uh, I've got a lot of friends that run them and do well in them. But yeah, I mean, I've thought about it. I've thought about maybe getting one and seeing how I could do in that class as well.
Mhm.
It's crazy when you think that they told you can run an asphalt pull off on dirt after all these years. That's crazy. That's what we think about when we talk about the factory stocks. But let's talk about the limited mod that you've been running. Is it easy to hop back and forth with the IMCA sanction, or do you prefer more of a little bit of outlaw sanction when you run a couple of other tracks like Boyd and some of the other places?
As far as sport mod goes,
Yeah.
honestly, for me, it doesn't matter where it is as long as I'm racing. I can I don't really have a preference. Just any new track I can go to or a different track, I love it. I mean, it's
yeah.
an experience, and it's a learning curve.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I've watched you, at Heart of Texas this year, and I mean, you show up there, and obviously good. I mean, really good. So is there one of these tracks, as you've kind of been, hopping across these racetracks, is there one that really fits your style that when you see that one on the calendar and it's like, all right, right here, this is Dabney, we're going to win this race?
Well, I mean, with Hot, I live right across the street.
Yeah.
So it makes it really easy to go to that track. Kennedale I really enjoy because I've actually ran there more than anywhere. I used to live up in the Fort Worth area, so I really like that track. I'm definitely, now that big race season's coming around, I want to jump on to more tracks. RPM, I'm going to go Saturday and Sunday this weekend, see what we can do there. I grew up in that town, so I mean, there's no real track that really catches my eye, but I go to every track thinking that I have a chance to win.
Hell yeah. Love it. Love it.
You got to get that from Justin. Talk about your relationship with Justin Long. He does a lot for a lot of people in the racing community. I don't think he gets some of the credit he deserves for some of the stuff he's done with the modifieds, and then some of the stuff he used to do with the Legends cars.
Yeah, I've known him since I was 13 years old. He kind of took over that Vato deal from Billy Garza, and then ended up starting his own deal. I guess it was maybe this year, to that GRC car, but he's definitely got me on the path that I'm at now, and we've kind of went our separate ways because I moved out here to Waco, and just trying stuff out has really, testing more and more is what's really helped me out the most. Just trying to figure out what works for me, because every driver's different.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So I do want to ask you about the Legends. I mean, because kind of going back to that, man, that was such a big influence. And I mean, it's kind of tapered off a little bit, but how massive of I mean, back in the day when you were doing that, I mean, you kind of hip hop to all these different racetracks. Man, that was quite the tour back in the day with the Legends.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When we started out, we had Houston Motorsports Park, which I think that's the only track we have around here that's asphalt. Altus, Oklahoma, Wichita Falls, which is Monarch now. Monroe, Louisiana, which is, what's the name of that track now?
The Rev.
The Rev, yeah.
Yep. That track used to be asphalt. We ran on that track. I mean, when I started back in 01, we had tons and tons of cars, B mains, C mains, and it's just slowly dwindled away. It was sad seeing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was through it all the way till almost the very end, and then probably I don't know, it was maybe last year or the year before last, they ended up getting rid of that series at TMS and everything. So
that sucks.
Sad to see it go, because I mean, it's definitely a good starting spot to move on up the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? What do you think caused that deal with it to not be as successful as it was? I mean, there was times back, in the 20 teens, 12, 13, 14, right there, that they had some big money races there for the coming up with at the little quarter-mile track or eighth of a mile track there at TMS or Cup race weekends. It looked like it was all good, and all of a sudden it seemed like it just fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say what really put that in the hole. I mean, there's so many people in the Fort Worth area. I guess, maybe for around here, there just wasn't enough, marketing to get out there. And because I know a bunch of people that still have legend cars, but they never pulled them out of the garage. They never wanted to get out. And I know, back in the day, they used to charge us, $25 to get in the pits and $5 for every crew member, and now it went up to like $60 for every person that went when I was ending.
Yep.
And and the purse was only like $150 to win. So it just made it really hard to want to go out. And you're not. Of course, racing, you're not going out there to make money.
Sure.
A lot of people aren't, for sure. But
yep. Yeah, that's for sure. So let's talk about sport mods. It kind of the same thing. We see a little bit of a shift. The modifieds are kind of backing off, and we used to have these big modified shows, and we don't. There's still big modified shows, but when we talk about B mains and C mains and all of this, it kind of fell into the sport mods. The factory stocks are kind of gaining ground right now, but it seems like with the sport mods, the limited modifieds, or whatever you want to call them, it seems like a resurgence right there. That really seems like the class to me that, if you want to get out there and go balls to the wall and hammer down, jump into one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing I feel like that hurt the sport mod, they're staying a steady car count, but now they're bringing in eco mods and junior limiteds and all these other different classes that are pulling sport mod drivers out of and going separate ways. I don't know if that was the right area. Junior limiteds for sure, because it gives kids, a step in, which I definitely love that. You got to have the kids keep the sport going.
Yeah. That's a great point. Hadn't thought about that.
Hadn't thought about the junior
great
limiteds,
point. Yeah.
E-mods, though, E-mods are popular down in South Texas, so I could see where having the E-mods helps kind of break into it too. But talk about the what's the next step there for the mods? Are they going to be, with all the people running factory stocks and stuff like that? Do you see the sport mods staying consistent, or is it something that's going to take a little bit of work and some new blood to make sure that class stays as big as it is right now?
Yeah, my honest opinion, I think sport mods aren't going anywhere. I think there's enough around, and it's a class that's still somewhat baseline. That's not a modified or a stock car. It's kind of an in between of a factory stock and the higher up classes like modified. So I think that's still a stepping stone from a factory stock. If you don't want to jump into something so advanced like a modified, that sport mod is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. I think that's a great class right there. So for you, you're talking about the rest of the year, what the places that you want to go. What's your path moving forward? What are the, longer term goals, for Michael Dabney?
For me, I've kind of just, used to back in the day when I was a kid, I wanted to advance and be NASCAR, this and that, but now it's more of a hobby, and I just want to have fun, be with friends, have a good time, and, race when I can. I love it. It's, I've been doing it all my life. It's everything I know. So
yep, that's it.
Now that we're on the right path and maybe all the bad luck's behind me, I hope. Hopefully. This year has been a nightmare, but these last few weeks, Friday I blew a transmission. So, I recouped Saturday though, and that's what gets you that much more momentum to go into the next week.
That's right.
So everybody's good buddy Shane Turner, he wants us to ask you about your dog Axel. That's all he said. Didn't say anything else. But wants us to ask you about your dog.
Oh Lord, no, that's not that shithead. He's a half pug, half French bulldog. Everybody's best friend.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good thing. I mean, that's the best friend you're going to have right there is definitely a
Oh,
dog.
absolutely.
Yeah, we've got a dog in the studio right here just kind of watching us as we're doing this. But
Yeah, since he was 6 weeks old when I got him, he pretty much goes to every job I go to, everywhere. I mean, he's always with me.
yeah. So how cool is it now? I mean, this is kind of when we get into the big show time. I mean, this is when you start seeing those big shows pop up. You get the season point stuff out of the way. Is this a big, exciting time for you guys where it's like, okay, let's go chase some money. Let's go to the big money races.
Absolutely. That's what I'm all looking forward to. We got a couple big money races this weekend. We got the 4,000 to win at Kennedale next weekend.
Nice.
Following weekend, I promised somebody I had to go to a wedding, so I can't do that. But Jason Hubert, who runs the 778 car, he's getting married that weekend, so he kind of took us all away from being able to race. So
Nice.
but it's all in all a good time. So
It's good
I'm
stuff.
definitely going to be looking out for wherever else we can go.
Hell yeah.
Go chase that money for sure.
Right on.
So what's the bigger struggle? Getting the car to the racetrack or keeping it at the racetrack?
Oh, getting the car to the racetrack for sure.
yeah. No doubt about that. No doubt about that, man. And seriously, again, winning at Kennedale, that's a big deal, dude. You still got to be on cloud nine a little bit about that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they told me to sign that check. My hands were still shaking. I was just, the adrenaline was pumping.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, that's just winning there, I think, is just as hard as winning at Heart of Texas, because they say if you win at Heart of Texas, you can win anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that I hit Kennedale and was able to get that knocked off, I mean, I've always wanted to win there. And just being even up front, was awesome. So,
Yeah.
Definitely gives you that fire and that drive to want to go get the next one.
Yeah, those really are the two tracks. It seems like if you want to stamp yourself in, I mean, win at Kennedale and Heart of Texas, and those are the ones. Those are the benchmark tracks right there.
Those were tracks that I even went to as a kid, watching dirt track races there in Devil's Bowl. I mean, Thunderbird Speedway, those tracks around that area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those were definitely something that I wanted to do when I was a little kid as well.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Congratulations, man. I'm proud of you, man. Looking good out there. I mean, keep rolling, man. Go get the big money here now that the points shit's out of the way.
Hey, that's the plan. Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely, man. Take care. Have a good night, brother.
Yes, sir. Y'all too.
You bet. There he is, Michael Dabney. I like that. Go get the big money.
He's ready. He's peaking at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, Heart of Texas and Kennedale. I mean, if I could win, I mean, I'd love to win a race anywhere, but one of those two places, that's a real deal right there.
But the reputation of both tracks, in terms of there's one thing, like
That's
that's where, in terms of the Metroplex, I mean, there's still not there's not as many racetracks left in DFW as what people think.
Mm-hmm.
It's down to Kennedale and Devil's Bowl, and then you got some of the outliers like 67 and some of those other racetrack. Boyd runs on Friday night, which Waco and Boyd were kind of alternating the big mods there for a little bit. But the best of the best in the DFW area, they go to Kennedale. That's their home track, and that's where they run. So it is a big deal to pick up a win and even a championship up at Kennedale up at KSP. And it's a great facility, real modern grandstands, real nice press box up there. It's a little small, but it's pretty nice for the size. And they got a great fan following up there, and the drivers are really good when they pop up there.
Yeah, and the thing is there with Dabney, I mean, he really has. I mean, I saw him at Waco. The luck has just been horrible. I mean, it's been horrible. I mean, he's really good at anytime he shows up. When you see that car come out, it's like, okay, this dude is going to be right there in the hunt to win. But I mean, it's that luck right there, and that's where it goes down to it. We were talking on Saturday when we were talking about rigging races on the NASCAR stuff. It's like totally impossible for that to happen because there's so many things that factor into this, and it's impossible to know what's going to happen. And this dude, he's had a rough go, but man, to break through and win there, I mean that's how you do it. I mean that's he's got a lot of momentum just off of that one race.
Yeah, I mean I think winning at the right time is so crucial. Momentum, some people say that momentum doesn't count in motorsports, and I think that as much as it does in other sports. But I think winning at the right time helps elevate your program. And it's the same thing. Losing a race or blowing a motor at the wrong time does the exact opposite. But in terms of finding your mojo, you want to win. You want to win your stuff. Well, you want to win anytime, but you want your program to be on the upswing when it starts coming to some of these bigger shows.
Yep. It is so funny when we were talking to him about the legends. I mean, you remember those days?
God, there were a bunch of them.
Man, there were so many of those, and it's one of those things where I think it just kind of outgrew itself a little bit, and it was man, there were so many of those. I remember in Kyle when they would show up, and there were like 30 of them, and it just got tough. And I mean that's just some of the shift right there, and that class. I mean, we see that with the legends, we see it with the dwarf cars, where the dwarf cars really aren't dwarf cars anymore, and I don't know. I mean, there's got to be a way. I don't know. That's a whole different discussion. But man, they used to pack the pits, and there were so many good drivers in those cars.
There really were some good drivers, and we'll talk to another one coming up here at the next portion of the show with Clayton Green, who won some big money races at TMS too. But it. I think the transition for the Legends cars was when some of those kids moved up to late models.
Yeah.
And then depending on who you ask, it was detrimental to late models because they kept crashing and burning and some other stuff. But I think when a lot of those kids decided to move up to the next step past the Legend cars, I don't think they had not enough of the Bandolero kids moved to that next step in them Legend cars to be able to support that, especially when you started losing the asphalt tracks.
That's it.
That didn't help it a whole lot either.
No, it didn't, because that was very much an asphalt car. And, we started seeing the Legend car being converted to a dwarf car, and they could run them on dirt and so forth. But, I mean, the actual Legend car was very much a pavement car. It was set to run that way, and, it was a slow death for those, and that sucked to see. Bobby, before we get to the next guest, I do want to ask you, Chris Buescher drove his ass off, and he got DQ'd.
That sucked for him.
Glad he didn't win.
I go say, at least he didn't win that race and got DQ'd. You talk about making an uproar. But I think the way that the track bar mount was mounted, I think because of the fact that car had sparks flying out underneath it all night long from lap one. When after you get about 10 laps and the sway bar and the truck arm bar and all that are still dragging the ground, after the air pressures get up, that's when you know there's something questionable up underneath there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that was my first thought. I'm like, man, glad he didn't win, because that would have sucked. But I like that finish. I mean, for folks that say what you want to say about NASCAR, but I mean, it set up a perfect finish, and I mean, they raced it out, and I mean, here we go. I mean, the playoff field is set, and I think that the fireworks are going to continue.
I think that NASCAR made the right decision when they decided to make the regular season finale at Daytona, just because of the fact they got the excitement they wanted, the fan base gets into it. And generally, the way that it works on a Saturday night, you get a pretty decent TV crowd. We hadn't seen it. Adam Stern hadn't posted the TV numbers yet, but I imagine the TV numbers would be pretty good since it was on network TV.
Yeah, no weather delays. I mean, it was a good, smooth show. So, I think that worked out well. So we'll wait for that. But going back to the Advanced Auto Parts Hotline, we talked to Michael Dabney. I know this guy probably knows him. That's coming up here. But we're going to talk to a dude that, man, Mobile setting him on fire over there. What a comeback. What a year. On the hotline, we talked to Clayton Green. Clayton, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
We're doing well, sir. We are doing extremely well. First of all, I mean, how cool was it for you and the family to, man, get back to the racetrack, get back out there and start racing again?
It was great. We took a 2-year break. We missed a couple of years, and had been deciding to put together a car, and finally got the chance to get it fixed up, and was able to make the first race at Mobile for this year.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So let's go back for the people that don't know your story. Obviously, you hadn't always run in the modifieds and stuff. You started out running Legends cars, obviously with Michael Dabney too. Talk about your experience when you ran the Legends cars. I think you ran Bandoleros first and then moved to the Legend cars. So talk about that progression from how you got started in the Bandoleros and won some big races, and then moved up to the Legend cars and won some big races.
Yeah, we started off racing little go-karts, and after a couple of races, we were getting pretty good with that, and I had a little incident where we went airborne for a little second, and Mom said no more, and so we went to Bandoleros that had a full cage, and raced the Bandolera Series, won the INEX National Championship race. I don't think we won the points that year, but we won the race. And then we moved on to Legend Cars, and I spent a good chunk of years, I think from 2013 to 15, something around there, to racing all across the country. I think one point in, I think my final year of racing Legend Cars, we raced 51 out of the 52 weeks or weekends of the year.
It's crazy.
So just trying to chase INEX points. So
Yeah.
we would go from one track to the next, and sometimes those races would last. Either it just be a one weekend or one race deal, or it'd be a 2-race deal, or on a special occasion we'd hit 3 races in a weekend. So it was all just trying to grab for points.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we worked our way from Legends to Modifieds, where got an opportunity to race one year, getting my foot in the door with a full-size car, and we had won. I think we won the final race of that season that we started, and then we moved on to late models. I only got a season of late models, if that, and that didn't go too well for me. But we ended up going back to the modifieds, and then we raced the K&N Pro Series, and I thoroughly enjoyed racing in the K&N Pro Series.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That is awesome. So let me dial it back just a little bit, like we were talking there to Dabney. So the Legends, back in those days when you guys were really firing that thing off, man, it was so many cars, so competitive. What happened? what in the heck happened to the Legends?
I really don't know. I know that when I raced there, they had a new track promoter, and he was doing everything in his power to get that car or that program going, and was able to put together a lot of good events, and was able to rally around other local racetracks, even tracks out in Louisiana. I think the Revved in Monroe, Louisiana. And they rallied some really big races between there. They were able to get some purse money up, and they attracted a lot of cars. And, I think we were fielding, I don't know I think we were racing about 15 per class. You got the Young Lions, which is the youngest, semi-pros, which are like, I don't exactly remember what the semi-pros were, but then there were pro and masters, which was for the older guys. And each class had about 15 cars, at least to what I recall. And it was really competitive back then. Whatever happened to it now, I couldn't answer. It just somewhere along the way it just fell off.
Yeah, for sure.
So talk about the car control and stuff that you learned. I know back when I was talking to you back in the day when you were running the Legends cars, and people else that we've talked to have said that you learned so much throttle control and so much with the power to weight ratio, and how much you need to take care of your car, take care of your tires and stuff like that. How valuable, one, is that the same for you? And then two, how is that translated into running these bigger cars now?
I would have to say the Legend cars, in my own opinion, were a little bit more fidgety with the throttle. So when you get back on the throttle, it wanted to get up and go. These heavier cars you can put a little bit more power down to them without, really blowing the rear wheels off the car. But with the Legend cars, they were really finicky. You really had to get the car dialed in the corners before you could get back on the throttle and get up off the corner. And I know that I think that it has to do with two things, especially with the Legends, and that's the racetrack that you went to, because we raced at all different types of racetracks. They were flat, they were high banked. I think they raced the Legend cars one year at the Las Vegas Bull Ring, and I think they were clocking those Legend cars at 120 miles an hour.
Sheesh.
Versus I think it's a quarter mile or inside TMS on the little flat track. So you really have to be adaptive with the tracks that you go to, and they're awesome little cars to learn basic car control and the basics for how you're gonna break down, what the car's doing, and how to learn what a car will do around different types of racetracks. It really just grows you as a driver.
Really does.
In that program. It's almost like dirt in a sense.
Yeah.
Just because of the different areas that you go to.
Yeah, you're spot on, spot on. So let's talk about this season. I mean, you show up the first race at Mobile, and you just drop the hammer and blow them out of the water. And it's like, so your thoughts with that? I mean, it's such a good car. I mean, talk about your car. I mean, you were dominating in that first race. You were dominating at this last race. Man, you guys have done your homework with that 54 car.
Yes, sir. We like I said, we spent 2 years putting together this chassis. We've had it for a long time, and we've been meticulously putting it together slowly but surely, trying to get the right, bits and pieces on it. We wanted to make it a really good quality car, and unfortunately, we weren't able to make the first Houston race, but we were able to make the first Mobile race, which I'm actually glad we did. But because it was a thrash to get there.
Yeah, I bet.
But that car went to Mobile for the first time, and like you said, it was perfect. I don't think we threw a whole lot of adjustments out the gate that race, and of course everybody started to pick up a little bit more speed as everybody was getting accustomed to the track, and I don't know how long it's been closed, but times have been getting faster and so on. And after the first race, we found a lot of problems with the car. For example, when we went back to Mobile, we ended up burning up the rear end housing, and so that screwed us up for the second race. And the third race, we had to put a different rear end housing, so we had to relearn the car. And it took the third and the fourth race to really kind of get that together. And I want to say the fourth race, we had it really dialed in.
Yeah.
We really got it close, and we ran into a little incident.
Yeah.
And so it set us back. But, I still think the car was doing great, considering in 8 laps we went from the back to the front. But that last race, it's really dialed down now.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to talk about a funny story that I know from talking to your mom, and it's about the superstition that your dad has about green and racing, which I always thought was really ironic with your stuff, because he never put green on the car, whether it was the color or the last name on the car, because your cars have always said Clayton instead of Clayton Green. Talk about that. Is that all your dad, or have you kind of gone into that moniker too of having that superstition of the green on the car?
I just don't even take the chance, to be real honest. The story goes is that my dad used to race in the truck series, and I don't remember exactly what the truck series name was.
Yep.
But he had blown up. He had his name, Steve Green, across the truck, and had blown up, I think it was 2 motors in a row. And I think it was Todd who went over there and ripped off the green from the Steve Green, and afterwards the next motor they put in, they were just fine, and everything was perfect. They didn't have a problem for the rest of the year. And so after that, and after hearing that story a dozen times, I just don't even take a chance anymore.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. So speaking of that, let's talk about your family. I mean, you guys coming out to the first Mobile race, your mom was messaging me, is race on? It was kind of one of those things, and I could definitely tell that you guys were thrashing to get there. But talk about Steve and Dana, and you mentioned Todd McLemore. He ran his last race over at Cotton Bowl. He says he's going to retire. But, I mean, talk about your family and Todd. I mean, it's just such a great family tree right there with all you guys.
Absolutely. I don't think I would be here, or I don't think I would have done and had the opportunities that I had without them, specifically and especially with that K&N stuff. That was just a miracle in every way possible. But yeah, I've just always we've always been at the racetrack, and Mom and Dad have always done it, and so I got into it, and Dad loves tinkering on race cars, and so we just continue doing it, and Mom loves to come to the racetrack, and
Yep.
that's really as simple as it gets. I just think that we'll be at the racetrack for a long time.
Yep. Can't get away from it. No doubt.
So other than the one little mess up that you had with that tire coming apart there at Mobile, what's been your first reaction with racing with these American Racer tires?
I haven't. It's hard for me to tell exactly. I haven't gotten to race on anything else,
Mm-hmm.
but they seem to do really well. When I had missed, like I said earlier, I had missed the first race at Houston, and me never racing on an American racer before. I had some questions, and I had asked other drivers, and they said, well, they're real kind of gooey, and they have a little bit of a problem to them. But when we got out on the first race, I didn't really see anything bad about them. I thought they handled really well. I think the fall off is a little faster, but I can't say that, to be honest, because I haven't even tried to race a Hoosier yet this year.
Yeah.
Or any other tire.
Yeah. So the rest of the year for you, I mean, I know there's one race left out there, and I mean, you steamrolled through this last race. So obviously you'll do the Mobile, I'm thinking, but what's on tap? I mean, is the Snowball something you guys may think about doing? What's the rest of the year look like for you, man?
We're gonna go to Mobile again to finish off the season at Mobile. We're gonna go to Houston, I believe, on the 11th.
Nice.
And then our main goal for this year is to try and win the Derby. That's one of the things that we wanted. We built this car to go and win the Derby, if possible.
Mm.
That's our main goal.
You heard it here first.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
It's just crazy to know that we watched him in Bandoleros now. He's talking about winning the Snowball Derby in the modified race. It makes me feel really old. I didn't need any help with that, feeling older than I did, sounding like a box of Rice Krispies getting out of bed this morning. But now we're talking about, one of the guys. He's now not. We say one of the kiddos, but
Not a
hell,
kiddo.
you're not a kiddo anymore.
No.
So it makes us
24.
Oh, the hell!
Oh, wow.
That
Nah,
that damn sure didn't help any. Thanks a lot for that. Now that you're 24, yeah.
That's great. So, hey, let me ask you, Clayton. So, your thought, the state of the modifieds. I mean, because you've got the modifieds of Mayhem, and there's along the Gulf Coast right there. And again, we're praying for everybody there. But I mean, your thoughts with these cars? I mean, because they're still viable, they're still popular, man. This is a bitchin' ass racing class along the Gulf Coast.
Oh, yeah. I think the car count is growing. That can be said specifically for up to race 4, mainly just because everybody had known that
Right.
those were the 4 races they were happening at Mobile.
Yep.
And you could see it from the start of the season to race 4. I mean, we started with 8 cars at the start of the season, and then on race 4, I think we had 13.
Yeah, we did. Yep.
I think it's just a matter of if we can get more or a future heads up on when these races are. I think you'll see a much larger car count with these with the modifieds in general. It definitely showed over the from race 1 to race 4. I know that we had a little bit of a fallback with this upcoming race just because it's a spur of the moment kind of deal, and that's fine.
Sure.
But I definitely love the modifieds. They're by far one of my favorites to race, especially having been racing a late model before, and they're affordable. They're not crazy, but
Right.
they obviously to be competitive, you got to be able to put some of that money into it. So, but it's still a competitive series. I think we had, especially at Mobile, I know that we had at least 4 or 5 different front runners
Mm-hmm.
at the start of the season.
Yeah. There were times where we outdrew the Pensacola track, but anyway, we'll leave that alone. But yeah, it
That's a little self promotion.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit.
Kings
but,
of shameless self-promotion.
Yeah,
That's what we've been told.
Good stuff, man. But dude, it was glad to see. I was so glad to see you guys back out there. I was so excited, and congratulations, dude. Those 2 wins, those were 2 kick-ass wins, man. Keep it up. Let's go win that Derby.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely try.
Absolutely, my man. Well, we'll be cheering you on, man, and we'll see you soon.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.
Thanks a lot, man. Take care.
Will do.
You bet. There he is, Clayton Green. He was a little kid.
He was a little kid. Now he's 24.
my
That did not
God.
help out any.
Oh man, I'll tell you, and seriously, the 2 wins that he had this year at Mobile, it was like night number 1 was just a thrashing. I mean, and then you had Memphis, that came in and kind of got in there, and Clayton. I mean, I think the night that he had the problem, I think that he was that was going to be a hell of a race. Those 2 were going to really get after it, but the last night, I mean, I guess it was night number 5. He was, back to, I said it so many times on that broadcast where it was like, that was the Clayton Green that we saw on night number 1. And good for them. I mean, good for Steve and good for Dana. I just love them.
Yeah, they've been around it for so long.
Oh, my
like
goodness.
you said,
I know.
it's all he's known. I mean, because his dad raced forever. Damn good truck racer. One of the best wheelmans in the trucks that we've seen in a while.
Yep.
Or haven't seen in a while, really. And for his ability to go, he did obviously transferred over to Clayton, and they. I mean, I remember back when he was running Legends cars, they were everywhere.
Yep.
Back and forth from Marble Falls to Fort Worth on a Thursday night, back up to Fort Worth on a Saturday night. All over. They run Houston, they run Thunder Hill, they'd run all the way back up to, just like Dabney was talking about, all the way up to Wichita Falls, when Wichita Falls was still running in an asphalt track. And
yeah, and that's one of the things. I mean, speaking of that, is we can talk about the Legends. I mean, remember the Arch trucks? I mean, when Steve, those are 2 great classes that were just, I mean, the trucks are good now. I mean, trucks, luckily they found their legs again, but it was, man, remember those days? I mean, you had the Legends, you had the Arch trucks, and it was like, if those 2 were on the same bill, you better have some damn access pit space, because it's going to pack your pits.
I remember one time after, and some people have heard this story, some people haven't. Back in the day when I was doing PR for USRA, right after it started, right after they acquired the truck series from John Denham, we did a remote down at Dave & Buster's in San Antonio. At the time, it was at 410 and I-10, right there at 410 and I-10 at the interchange. And we did it on a Friday night after practice was over. The drivers came over, and the ones that didn't want to practice, I had Todd McLemore in his super late model and Steve Green in the truck.
Yeah,
they were in the parking lot, did some of the show trucks, did some of the show cars work for us for the promotion.
Yeah,
had the trucks parked out front. They may or may not have been in there for happy hour. And
well, I mean that's
and then they came out.
I mean, that's part of it. Yeah,
and a lot of people say that we've talked about it before. Race cars sell themselves. Well, when those damn trucks, that super late model on that truck was shagging ass through that parking lot, it sold it. It sold a lot of people on it. We had a hell of a crowd that next night in San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean that's how you do that stuff, and I would love to see that happening again. Remember when we talked to Marcus Harcrow, he was talking about when they used to do the show at the barbecue joint at Rudy's. On the Wednesday night, they're for Heart of Texas. And I mean, it's stuff like that. And I think that's where we need to dial it back in and do a lot of that promoting. And it's funny how a race car or truck in this case, or both, can really just tie in. I mean, just park it there. Just park it there. I mean, it doesn't have to be, Alex Bowman's number 48 Ally Chevrolet. You just park something out there, and that's going to be your best vehicle to get people to the racetrack. And that's why I'm such a big advocate of open trailers. It's just like you see those things going to the track, and it's like, I'm going to follow that. I want to see where that's going.
Well, think about it back in the day, man, when there was more self-service gas stations where they used to have the little mechanic work on the side in there. There was always a race car either out front of one of those, inside of one of the bays. There was always a race car out there, and they sold themselves. That's one of the reasons why Speedorama was so good, because you had a bunch of redneck hillbillies out there that had little bitty mechanic shops, and they have race cars all over the place. And it was you drive past and be like, hey, what's that? That's a race car. Well, hell, let's go watch more than one of them.
Yeah, and that's really the thing right there. I mean, that no matter what you do, I mean, as fancy as we get, you dial this thing back, and it all comes down to the grassroots. And I mean, that's really what sells it. And I mean, it's drawing those people in and getting them back to the racetrack, or getting new folks with that mindset to the racetrack. But again, we don't have the infatuation with the car like we had back in those days. But speaking of Memphis Villarreal, we were talking about him. He had that great run at Mobile. Hell, he wins in the factory stocks. He wins in the
one
factory
in,
stocks.
one in Edna the week before.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, those factory stock power rankings. There's a race going on tonight, like we talked about at Texas TMS, and it's going to shake that thing up. And Race On's doing their deal there. And I know that end of the season thing at the Oktoberfest, that's going to be pretty massive. Opportunities there for folks to punch their ticket in. I don't know the details, and I really don't. I mean, lots of times I get on here and I know, but I play dumb. I have no idea how that's going to work, but I think that Oktoberfest can that could really be a landmark factory stock type of thing at that track. I mean, that's the best place to do it.
That could turn into an annual event, even without the power rankings having that massive. I mean, obviously the King of the Hill race there for the factory stocks is the race. I think that's the one that everybody shoots at that they want to win.
Yeah.
And like these guys are saying, there's a lot of big money shows coming up for the factory stocks. This race at Cotton Bowl could start to become the Cotton Bowl Classic, right? Like the pun of the football game. Nice. The Cotton Bowl Classic, and it would be
get AT&T to sponsor it.
Maybe there's got to be an AT&T in Bastrop. I don't know if there's one in Page, but there's definitely an AT&T store in Bastrop.
Got to be one. There might be a Cricket. One of the two.
But
that's what I get when I use my phone in Page. Crickets.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I was trying to call. Well, sometimes it's a good cop out too. I was trying to call you. Want to know where you're at? Oh, I just have such bad cell service. It wasn't that I was ignoring you at 2:00 in the morning.
I'll tell you what I'd like to see, and especially with the factories. I mean, because you've got the stock cars that they go all over the country. I would love to see a factory stock Texas tour, to where you could figure out. I mean, I know they're doing the power rankings and all that, but I mean, you really want to crown a Texas champion? Let's get out here and let's figure out some type of, like y'all did with the Toms. Let's do a factory stock tour. Let them go everywhere. I mean, let's go to 105. Let's go to, I mean, everywhere. Let's hit every track, and I think that's how you crown the champion. That's my opinion.
That'd be one way to do it. I don't know if you get all the tracks on board. The rules are pretty damn close everywhere.
It's the same pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, rules are pretty close at most every racetrack. So
yeah. So again, that's Thursday on Race on Texas on their Facebook page. That'll be the final release right there, and that's really going to set the tone for everything moving forward for what's going to be a really good race. What's going to be a really good race at Oktoberfest. And so, Bobby, your thoughts on the dirt track season? I mean, we've watched these dirt tracks continue. I know some have struggled with rain dates and everything, but I think that once again we're seeing the power of dirt track racing in Texas, to where we've got all of these tracks. Yeah, the working together kind of went out the window because it had to, because we had weather stuff happening. But man, all these damn tracks seem to be doing well once again.
I think it's when they don't schedule on top of each other, which we give them credit for that. They really haven't. I think that the outlier ended up having to be South Texas Speedway when they had so many rainouts and just shows that they just couldn't make happen. And they really, really needed to come in and get some dates. So when they were able to kind of reschedule their stuff, they scheduled on top of a couple of the other tracks. And does it work well for everybody when it happens? No, not really. We've seen that in the car counts and different stuff, especially when they ran head-to-head against Edna. I don't think either track had the car count they were looking for to make up that night. But, it's when they don't schedule, especially down here, down south, when they're not scheduled on top of each other, there's more than enough cars to go around. And we've seen it because there's still enough cars to put on a decent race when they're scheduled on top of each other, as we saw this past weekend with STS and I-37. Up north, it's the same thing, but the tracks are getting fewer and far between, because you got your guys that are only going to run Kennedale, and you got the guys that are only going to run Boyd on Friday night. Heart of Texas is his own outlier. But then when you throw in, the guys out in East Texas with your RPMs and your 67s and stuff like that, those are outliers too, racing on Friday night over there. So that's I think racetrack or dirt track racing as a whole is still pretty strong in Texas. Obviously, we're still fighting the one track battle with asphalt, but I mean, there's a good racetrack near you. It's time to go out and support your local racetrack, especially towards the end of the season. Every track has some type of big show you can support before the year is out.
That's right. Get yourself to one. If you can't get there, watch it on stream. Stream something. I mean, just be a part of it. I mean, that's what it's all about. And man, now this is exciting, because we can say dirt track or asphalt is struggling in Texas, One place it isn't is up north, and we've got man, we have the main man right here, the Oxford 250. That is one of the biggest ones. I mean, you got the Snowball, you got the Oxford 250. Those are the biggest ones, and we've got the man that punched the ticket and went to victory lane yesterday. Cash Money, Cassius Clark joins the Revved Up Sports Show on the Advanced Auto Parts Hotline. How you doing, sir?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're doing well, man. We're doing well. How has the high wore off yet, man, or is it still still so exciting?
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting event there. So couldn't be happier.
Love it.
So some of the people down here in Texas may not be as familiar with your background as they should be, because you've been racing for a long time. Talk about your background. You hadn't always run these super late model, pro late model types of cars, have you?
Yeah. I started out racing legend cars there. I raced those for two or 3 years, and then raced asphalt super late models ever since.
Yeah, love it. So let's talk about you, man. It's like Cash Money. You go out and you are so damn good in these long races, man. You find ways to win these long Oxford 250. I mean, how hard is it in endurance races? I mean, it's not an enduro by all means, but how hard is it to pace yourself to be the best at the end of these races?
Yeah, it's every race is different. It depends on how the race unfolds. What goes on for cautions, who's setting the pace. There's a million different variables. So just gotta keep yourself out of trouble and keep plugging along and just try to make sure that you're there for the end.
That's right.
So my next question, I know it's going to be somewhat of a biased answer, and it's perfectly fine if it is. How underrated is that New England racing scene up there? Because, I mean, are you guys kind of on an island by yourself up there, and that's why the rest of the country hadn't noticed it? But, I mean, there was a boatload of cars there, and it seemed that Oxford 250 is a hell of an event up there.
Yeah, I mean, Oxford's a different animal of a track. It's pretty much one of a kind. So, for someone to come up and try to run well, it's really difficult. You obviously had a couple good guys up there to try to run it. Bubba was able to win it, the first time he came up, but he's kind of struggled ever since. I mean, he did okay the other night there, but not what he's used to for his standards. It's just a track that it's just really tough, and there's a lot of good local contingent, and
Yeah, and the locals do well. The locals do well there in Maine. So let's talk about that with super late models. I mean, you've got the South. I mean, you got the guys. You talk about Bubba and all these guys, and then we have you guys, and even the West Coast. I mean, how has this thing shifted around so much to where now we've got really good areas of super late model racing?
Yeah, it's it depends on everybody's schedule. Everybody's got their own little bit of regional big events and everything. But the Oxford's, what was that, the 48th annual?
Yeah.
So it's been at it for obviously a number of years, and there's always been a large number of cars up here that run real well, and a lot of them kind of venture out. Myself, we've been down to the Snowball Derby and Nashville and kind of all over, and we usually run up front, and then they get the guys down their way that like come up and run well as well.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we're more familiar with the Derby down here. Are the races comparable in terms of the feel of them, or does one have a little? Obviously the 250 is special to your heart, but are the races similar in the big race feel between the two of them?
Yeah, I guess the Derby probably gets a little bit more promotion with it, but when you're actually at the event, I think Oxford's just as big, and I think probably Bubba and the other guy in the 51 car there, they'd probably tell you that when they come up and experience it. It's a large capacity crowd, 12,000 people or whatever. So obviously that's it's big that way, and I mean everything being the 1 day show and all that, it's definitely intense. It's kind of a little bit different style of racing.
Yeah,
the Derbies is set up for time trials and get the field set that way, where Oxford's kind of little luck of the draw and kind of go from there and be in the 1 day event. But as far as competition level and everything, I think they're both pretty equal.
So walk us through that race, man. I mean, you win that race. I saw the pictures there, and our man Phil Whipple that set this up interview for us, and thank you for taking the time. I mean, I see your car. That car is all beat up. How did you pull this off, man?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not ideal. I usually try to keep your nose clean, especially in a long race like that.
Yeah.
So, we was able to hit really good pit stops. My crew, kind of got me out towards the front there, and just had, a situation with a bunch of lap cars in there, and everybody trying to, buy their way to the front. And, accident happened, and we just, narrowly missed it and kind of got through. And unfortunately, someone kind of hit us on the door there a little bit and kind of took a lot of the right side of it away. But, we were able to get the lead, and there was no detrimental damage. There was no tire rubs or anything like that. So we kind of, stuck with it and made it to the end.
Love it.
So it seems like that race has its own unique feel in terms of how well it's done. I mean, the one-day show, how much more pressure does that put on you from the team competitive aspect of it versus, the Derby where you've got a couple of days to go? I mean, does it change your preparation as you would for a normal race, or do you double check every nut and bolt for the 250? I mean, talk about the difference in the preparation if there is any at all.
Well, yeah, no, it's a lot. And Oxford's a weird track too, which, we've been down to Pensacola a few times. That's kind of the same boat, but you're there practicing Friday and Saturday, and then you get there Sunday, and your car feels completely different from what it did the previous days. So you're kind of scrambling to. It's really, it's really, really sensitive as far as the amount of rubber that's laid down and kind of all that stuff. So you're kind of always scrambling. You got a good baseline, but you're always having to adjust on it. I feel it's similar to the Derby. I mean, maybe the Derby's a little bit less extreme that way because, the tracks, it seems to be, more consistent than what Oxford is. It's when you get a setup there, it's just always never perfect. And it's a track that you just have to be real finicky on. And it's really, as close as everybody is as far as the competition with what they've got for equipment and everything, it's a track that's really, dependent on getting a car that handles real well.
Yeah, for sure. So break down those last couple of laps for us. I mean, this is one you've been chasing. This one. I mean, you go to Canada, you win like we said, cash money. You win these big races, but I mean, it had to be pretty damn surreal for you at the end of this thing, where you're like, man, I'm about to win the freaking Oxford 250. What did that feel like, man?
Yeah, I've been there before. I mean, I've led this thing, many different times, and just never seemed to get there right. And this time there, we were kind of. I like to be up front and take command of the race and kind of set the pace. And obviously the restarts and everything, we were pretty decent on those. And I felt pretty confident with 5 to go. There's a lot of things you can do as a driver to, even if a guy's a little bit faster, you got to kind of make him go around you and kind of slow yourself down to stay on the bottom or anything. That's kind of what we did. We just, with the 12 car, we were able to kind of pull out to a little bit more of a comfortable lead. With the 7G there, he was a little bit closer to us. So just had to protect the bottom, run your race and don't do anything stupid. Don't mess up. And, as long as you didn't poon you out of the way too bad. But, I mean, that's why you slow down, too. You
right.
Slow down to enough where if there's contact, you're still able to control your car and kind of go from there. And if they jump to the outside, you get enough enough under the pedal that you can, keep them out there and stay even with them on the inside.
Yes, sir.
So now you won the big one. What's on tap for the rest of the season? Obviously, we talked about the Derby here and there. You plan to come south, run the Derby, or what's on tap for the rest of the season for you after this big win?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not exactly sure yet. I didn't know I was running this race till 2 weeks ago. So that was my first. We raced an opening race at the past race 2 weeks before. Decided they were going to do that. Came down. Did that one for a test event and ran this one. And I guess the plan is to maybe there's another 250 up in Canada. We're going to run the IWK 250. We're the defending champions of that. So go up and run that, and all goes up. Goes well. Get a bunch of money in the bank and maybe go go down and run the Derby there.
Nice, love it. So that's got to be a good feeling. One thing that you will never be able to escape is being an Oxford 250 winner. That's got to be pretty badass for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, between my father and I, and as many years I've been after it, it's been a goal, and been in position so many times. So it'll be nice to go in there next year and not have to worry about trying to win the thing. You won it once, and I feel like it'd be a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere. Not so much pressure to get it, because it was a huge goal of myself and my team and everything to get that done. So we'll have a little bit of relief off, and then just kind of go out there and try to repeat.
Yeah, for sure, man. Congratulations, buddy. Thanks for taking the time. I'm sure you probably had to do a bunch of these today. So sure enjoy talking to you here in Texas, man, and enjoy it, man. That's something that really special.
Okay, appreciate it. You guys have a good one.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, bye.
You bet. There he is, Cassius Clark, Oxford 250 winner, cash money, and he's going back to Canada.
I wonder if the exchange rate's the same up there. Remember when Bubba used to talk about winning that race?
Yeah,
it was
Pollard talked about that.
$25,000 Canadian.
Yeah.
But the exchange rate's still pretty good. If you can go up and be back-to-back winners of that big race in Canada, the money still spins and the check's still cash.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, that's the bottom line right there. I mean,
the trophies sit on that shelf forever.
Yeah, that's exactly
Unless
right.
they fall apart like mine.
Well, that.
If you want good trophies, get with Owen Pittman. He makes some damn nice.
That's a man. That's a man that's going to take care of that. But super good stuff right there. Cash money. Cassius Clark, winner of the 48th annual, almost said Snowball Derby. Oxford 250. And we got to talk. We're going to the Advanced Auto Parts Hotline one more time. 4 guests.
Well, I know. We actually had to work tonight.
Yeah. Wow. How about that shit? The man that this coverage, I had people calling me. Gina Shile Knowles called me, and she's like, "Hey, you asshole! Why didn't you tell me you were going to Maine?"
I had a couple people ask if that was you up there.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm still here. But the man that put this great coverage together and made us look good, set that interview up with Cash Money right there. Our correspondent, our man, it is Phil Whipple. Phil, have you calmed down yet, son?
No, man. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. You know what? Let me tell you right, honestly, gentlemen, since you're both close friends, I'm going to tell you right where I'm at, right off the cuff. I'm physically and emotionally exhausted at this point, okay?
I bet.
Oh, man, what I've been through the last 3 days. And Cash, what a gentleman to be able to do this for me. He don't know you guys from Adam. He don't know Russ from his second bunghole, okay? He don't know you guys. And just, I asked him, we put it together last minute. What a nice gentleman, and so eloquent, well-spoken. I'm so delighted how all this came down. So I'm riddled and I'm overextended. I should have been sleeping long ago. I should have slept in late, and I didn't. I got up early, wound like tight, and I should be crashed now. But, man, after what I just experienced, what I got to do on the microphone last night, a lifelong dream, the shit I just experienced, and how this is all culminating with this wonderful interview with our winner tonight. Guys, thanks for for taking the time to recognize the scope, the magnitude, what it means to this Oxford 250, what it means to New England race scene, and how big it is really on the national scale. I just got done talking with Bubba and Stephen Nasse and those people, and yet again, guys, they were overwhelmed at what they saw in the pit area, in the camper area, in the grandstands. That Nasse sold out his merchandise an hour after he took the boxes out of the trailer Friday morning, guys. And Bubba, I think, did the same thing. Hell, the first time Bubba came up, they sold $600 worth of T-shirts on the first day. This is how much the New England race fan loves stock car racing. And that mighty 250, good Lord, what a thing the 48th annual edition was. Guys, thanks for letting me bring you a little taste of that. I sure enjoyed doing it.
I love, as Cash said, the guy in 51.
Yeah, the guy in 51. Yeah, didn't have the best of luck.
It was interesting. He explained how that unfolded. You're not going to see a man with a rig bashed out the heck like that go and do that. You know, he talked for a moment about, I was pretty good on the restarts there, kind of most.
Yeah.
You should have heard the people in the press box talking about that guy, Lee Horton, the really good friend of mine, dear colleague, ex-colleague, editor of the Sun Journal, stood up a half a dozen times and said, how's that kid doing that? How's he keep driving away from him like that? Your boy Griffith is stout. This guy's not a racer. He's a stick and ball editor, and he's tripping. He hasn't been to this race, covered it personally for a few years. Lee Horton's jumping around the press box. No cheering in the press box, by the way. We journalists are unbiased.
That's a hard
Lee's
part.
Like, how's this some bitch driving away from him? Cash just really did have him covered, like he did 2 weeks prior in that Fast 150 as a warm-up. He smoked them then, and they brought a pretty good setup back on Sunday evening last night. And gosh, it was impressive to see him drive away from. And my man Derek Griffith, that's no slouch. You know why I used Derek to lead off my coverage?
For sure.
Because he was strong. I had a feeling this was going to be his year, Rodney. And Bobby Derek has been strong all throughout the season, man. He's been strong in that truck for Kyle Busch. He's impressive there. He's strong when he runs ARCA. And man, when the kid gets in a super late model at Jennerstown, at New Smyrna, down at Pensacola, and now up here to the mighty 250, the kid is a true contender. So I led off my coverage with him, and the little big-eared shit pretty near pulled it off last night. It was really exciting. I was so pleased talking in post-race in the press box, and I hope, Rodney, you get to sift through those two post-race interviews and get those up for the folks, because Cash was super excited after the race, and Derek, he came close. But, man, that 13, that old Fury car, that King Racing car out of Pictou, Nova Scotia that Cash drives, what a fabulous automobile. Andrew Hicken, I think, calls the shots on that team. That's a top-notch race team, and they got a pretty top-notch driver at that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Phil, talk about the overall experience of the day. Obviously, like we were talking to Clark there, that, we're more familiar with the Snowball Derby and how that all shakes out and all that, but it seems like it's a different race being the one-day show with the different qualifying methods to get in there. It seems like if you enjoy the Snowball Derby, then the Oxford 250's got to be on the bucket list of races to go to.
It really should be on a lot of your listeners' bucket list, really, because you know how, guys, I keep billing this as the nation's largest single-day short-track stock car race? Well, it will never, ever go to a qualified Saturday, and a lot of people have asked for this for years. Hey, how come we couldn't just qualify Saturday and then run the big 250 on Sunday? No. Then you lose your status as that richest single-day short-track stock car race. So for the 48 years now of this thing, man, you stress out all through practice Friday. You do the same thing Saturday. You hang around, watch your buddies, and have a big party Saturday night and watch the fall program they got Saturday night. Then, by the way, guys, you got to get up at 5:30 Sunday morning because you got a 12-hour day ahead of you, whereas you're at the biggest race of them all, the Grandier of them all, and you got to be in the pits about 6 o'clock in the morning because at 9 they start firing the motors, and at 9:30 they practice. Oh, and then at 1:30, there's 5 heats, and you better be strong for that first round qualifying, or your day's going to be pretty long, And then there's 3 consies, and then a 40-lap last chance qualifier. It's an ordeal, this race, for these guys, the volunteer crew members, the few that might get a few bucks lugging tires around for measuring tires and that stuff, Weeder and those guys. But, man, it's an ordeal for these guys, an exhausting ordeal, all to chase that dream of the mighty Oxford 250 on a Sunday night.
That's
so it's all day long. They're wasted, Rodney, what I'm trying to say. By the time we even roll the cars out for, the pit crews start rolling out the war wagons, they fill up the infield with stuff, and the cars start rolling out. These guys probably by that point, they're physically wound out. They're exhausted, 3 exhausting days. But then it's funny. Here's the deal. Bobby and I wish you could come up and see this. It's funny. We're all riddled, right? All in the tower, all across the suites in the tower, all the thousands of people in the stands. Everybody out back that's busted their tail. But then 6 o'clock, a quarter after 6, like the war wagons are out, the crews, and 40 will tell you this, Rodney. And then the cars rev up, and they start bringing the cars around. And, man, everybody just lights right back up. And then they handed me the microphone, and all of a sudden I got a second wind. And it all just like you, Rodriguez. And you get that second wind, and you realize, I'll quote Derek Lynch here, the 1994 Oxford 250 winner, a dear friend of mine from Norwood, Ontario. Derek said, at the Oxford 250, Phil, you're there, and about that time, 6:15 that Sunday evening, you quickly realize the war wagons, the cars are rolling out. Man, something really big is about to happen, and damn it, you're there to be a part of it. And there's really nothing else like it. I know the Derby's huge, and I know it's a big-time deal. But up here in the woods of Maine, we've always gathered in western Maine, and it used to be mid-July, but it was too kind of hot. They finally moved it to late August, hoping for that first little charge of cooler air, and we did get that this weekend. Never really get out of the 60s and overcast. Went from hot, muggy practice Friday. Rodney, you touched on the chassis adjustment part, and it went from hot and muggy Friday to fall-like over the weekend, and so that threw all the crew chiefs and stuff for a curve, but very pleasant and fall-like, and then they had to bust the tails yesterday and get it all done on a Sunday night. Bobby, it's different format. You got to really earn your way in. Just a few provisionals, but what would also blown you away, Mr. Chaffee, my friend, is 43 of those things getting ready to take the green flag on a 3/8 mile oval. And they waited until the leaders were right on the stripe and then threw the green, and they didn't all cluster up. It all just took off smooth, and they ran off a bunch of laps clean. It was really quite a spectacle.
Yeah, that's respect right there. And Phil, I think one of the things that I was most impressed as you were sending sound back to the hub here, the guys from the South, I mean, Bubba talked about it, Nasi talked about it. These guys were genuinely impressed with, and we were talking to Cash right there, and it's like this is where I think the guys from the left coast, the guys from the Southeast, they're realizing here where everybody congregates to the South. But, man, this is the real freaking deal up there in the North.
Yeah, it really is. I'm blessed to say that, to know that guys like the Northwest legend Garrett Evans has been over. He's made the 3,300-mile haul to it, and he's gone back to the Pacific Northwest and said, you ought to see what they got up there in New England and Maine. Holy Christ, he struggled wicked here. And I'm not happy about Nasty struggling, but isn't that exemplary, Mr. Rodriguez, of how big money does not buy you success at the Oxford 250? I hovered around those guys. I had an extensive interview with Mr. Nasi, who is not a nasty gentleman. He's a great guy, by the way. Talked with Steven, looked at the super late model up over my head over the rack, looked at all the progressive engines in that rig, talked extensively with Chris Cater, that guy that used to run Jet Motorsports.
Yeah.
What money, what brains are around that operation? I was so impressed with the 51 operation, but you know what all that hired guns and that big money did it last night? Nothing. And it's just because, no insult to any of those people, I now call them friends.
Yeah.
But money don't buy you success here. That's the thing you're telling these guys. Well, Oxford, you're in Cassius. What an Oxford place, finicky, hard place it is to get the handle. Ask Mr. Nasty about that next time you get a chance.
For sure.
It's a very difficult place to find the handle on. So that's part of the drama of this thing. Money don't buy you success here in the woods of Western Maine.
That's what it should be.
So let's try to figure. So
Right.
Are these super late models like they run in the South? Are they pro late models? Which were they? Because one time I listened to them and it sounded like the big whine of a super late model motor. Now I listen to it again, it sounded like a 604, like a pro late model motor. Which one of these cars are they?
I'm glad we finally addressed that point, Bobby. I'm glad because I guess we haven't touched on that, and we need to right now. These are more like a Southern pro late model. Our super lates up here do run the GM 604. And you say, why, man? Why do they run that crate? It's plain and simple. I'm glad I finally get to touch on this, too. There's no financial incentive to do that because it would never make any sense up here to run a built motor anyway. All the tracks these cats run on, perhaps with the exception of the High Bank 5/8 mile oval in Thompson, Connecticut, the rest of the bull rings past North runs on, you can't ever hook up more than the 400 horsepower that the stock GM 604 crate puts out. So it's the ideal engine horsepower-wise to hook up. Oh, and it's quite reliable and economical as well. So from an economic standpoint, the GM 604 crate has revived and salvaged asphalt racing here in the Northeast. You guys ask about, man, how's that all going on up there? How's them Hootniks up in the North? Still got so many cars, and what's going on? My friends, it's the GM crate 604 engine that has salvaged it and kept it going. And I think if they'd have got rid of the built motors down in the deep South, from what all your friends, Rodriguez, are telling me, and the high-priced shocks, you guys might still have this kind of racing down there, too.
Well, it's expensive everywhere you go. And it seems like that 604 is coming into a lot of stuff. Your big pavement pounders, your tour-type modifieds that are up there, they now have a 604 Class 2 that they've been running to try to re-energize that class for some of the older chassis. So I think the 604, there's talk about them running 604s in the trucks down here. So I think that, the 604 is that magic. It's that magic motor that's a little bit of everything that you can still get power and price. The price point and the power rating on it is actually one of those that actually works out pretty well for most series.
Exactly. Good point. Now, the only little glitch in that is that little glitch. And I want to ask you guys if you've heard anybody mention this. Rodney, did you catch Chris Gator talking about, and Mr. Nasi as well, the bad batch of 604s that they cooked two of them up here. One of them walked right up in 80 laps in a practice session up here at Oxford. And I guess they were. And Mr. Cater explained it to me, the crew chief, what the problem was, or his dad, why they were locking up. But they would put on fresh tires, and they were supposed to come up to a certain RPM. And he said, "Oh, it didn't even begin to rev up at all." And then Steven said, "Oh, it's locking up." And so they had a bad batch of 604s, but GM is supposed to reimburse and make it all right. Recall them or doing something. Had you heard about that, Rodney?
Yeah, I did hear about that. And speaking of that, I do want to ask you. Speaking of tires. Was the tire thing a big deal? Did that factor in there this weekend? I meant to ask you about that. If there was limitations on buying tires and all that, did that factor in with the tire shortage?
That's another good topic too. God, there's a lot of angles to this thing. You know what? It almost cost the tire situation. Almost prevented this thing from happening. I have to tell you that I was just informed yesterday, Bobby and boys, that the big massive tire order for this event was supposed to be on site 3 weeks ago, and it just arrived last week. And guess what? Every one of them tires, all them boys were running, they were just out of the mold the prior Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you want to talk about fresh, stinky rubber. These guys had never run, I don't believe, an event this size. You could probably, Cash could elaborate more on this, with such fresh, I'm talking right out the mold,
Damn, should
fresh
have asked him
rubber.
that.
And they all just arrived in Maine just in time, Roddy, to answer your question. So it almost was a factor, but no, everybody had enough rubber. It came off just fine.
And it's funny because I know that some of those new tires, fresh off the mold, were splitting in Pensacola. So anyway, I mean, not to cast shade at any of that, but I did wonder about that.
No, I'm glad you asked about it. And Bobby, I didn't mean to take such a dance around your question. It's, I guess, and maybe I even got terse with you, and I apologize for that. We run what you guys call pro lates here because it's just an adequate premier division for us, and we call them super lates, even though they got the Crate 604 in it, because they're not like the little 8-inch slick tire. They're not like the ACT late model, and I know you're aware of those too. From my old home state, Vermont base, they're not like what you boys, the Southerners, might call a limited late model. So they kind of are super late, but maybe you guys would call them a pro late. But they're still quite entertaining and good lap speeds and good competition. Geez, we had a lot of 2 and 3 wide racing this past weekend. We were very blessed, guys. And again, it's so nice that you'd let me share a little bit of the flavor and the taste of what just transpired the last 3 days up here with those guys. I wonder sometimes how many of your people cared or how much they really wanted to know about it. But if we reach some of those folks down there and the old asphalt guys, I guess, Rodney, probably were lit up about it because they probably have heard of the Oxford 250, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the most coverage they've ever got of the Oxford 250 down in these parts. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, man. There's been a big discussion up here, and ended up going to Dave Moody's level today online Facebook thing about mainstream media coverage in short track racing. Well, naturally, this was just one of the crown jewels we just run. And so a local woman, I'm not going to name her, she stepped out and bitched at my former employer, the Sun Journal, and wanted to know why they didn't spend more space and write a big, extensive story on last week's winner. She happened to be paid $75 per day or something this past weekend shooting pictures for that team, and I guess she didn't understand why the local paper didn't write a big feature on Johnny Clark. Been there, done that. He finally culminated. Like Cash, Johnny finally got that thing last year, and we beat that horse to death for like weeks and stuff. And so we're done with Johnny for right now. And by the way, he was strong again last night, but they didn't see to it in their advanced material to do another thing. So she kind of slammed that. And boy, the ensuing thread, guys, you'll be into this because you follow media stuff. The ensuing thread under that ranks from sports editors to Moody to on and on about. Moody says today, hey, if you guys got any mainstream media coverage of that event, you're doing better than 90%. He told to that lady, they're doing better than 90% of the tracks in the United States. Mainstream media, if you hadn't noticed, has basically dropped auto racing.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they really have. We see that here in Texas. So lastly, Phil, let me ask you, and again, thank you for considering us to be a part of your coverage. I mean, you did everything. I mean, people are like applauding Revved Up for whatever. We didn't do shit. You did it all. How cool was it for you? I mean, you've been ingrained with Texas. How fun was it for you to be back home covering this race?
Oh, good final question. I was like a kid again. I didn't go last year. My dad, quick story. My dad took me, this is the race that, by the way, that got me into the sport, 30 years ago. This is the race my dad took me to in July of 79. I was 18, fresh out of high school, getting ready to go off to the Air Force that fall. He said, Bob Bear, I heard over in the state of Maine, has created something like the Oxford 250. Son, why don't we go over and check it out? This is the race that hooked me on the sport. Did I ever think down the road, A, that I'd even live in Maine, or B, that I'd be on the microphone doing color commentary for the great race on its 48th annual edition? Being back at that thing, I'll try to be quick here. Being back at that thing, Rodney, to answer your question last night, after staring at dirt racing for 40 nights this past year, is so immersed in Texas racing, you peckerheads. Oh, God, I want to hit you guys right now. You twisted me all into that dirt shit all year long, and so I'm so absorbed in, oh, man, what a great interview.
You said the
Michael
magic word, buddy.
I needed to know more about Michael Dabney. I'm into that. Yeah. So now finally I woke up. I slapped myself back in the face the last 3 days, and I said, Whipple, did you forget where you really come from, what's going on? I was like a kid again all weekend, like that young boy that Henry Whipple brought over the mountain that time in 79. He was blown away at the Oxford 250. I was right back to that point on the microphone, over interviewing people in the pits, talking to fans in the camping area, hanging out with old man Fortier and his daughter Sherry. The whole just big experience. I was right back in awe the entire time. I was pretty jacked on it, guys. So you're very, very welcome for the coverage. Thanks for letting me do it. Thanks for talking to me this evening about, you can tell I'm still wound. And thanks for talking to the great Cassius Clark. That's one hell of a racer right there, John.
Hey, man, we gassed up the jet and said, have at it. You know, it may be a cheap jet, not a Lear jet, but it's like, hey, have at it. So talk about quickly.
More like an ultralight.
yeah, pretty much. So talk about that, being on the PA. I mean, when I heard you were on the PA, I'm like, what in the hell is this guy doing? How fun was it? We have a PA shortage here in Texas. You need to come do some PA around here.
Oh, I can't tell you how much I'd like to be on the microphone down there. Can I tell you? I know we're running long and we shouldn't, but you see, 30 years of skin I invested into the writing side of the sport, and I've gotten pretty good at it, and I did brand myself pretty well now around probably 10 different states. They know who Phil Whipple is, the motorsports journalist, and I'm very, very proud of that 3 decades of effort. But after what I enjoyed last night with Nick Huff,
I tell you, man.
Shit, guys, why in hell didn't I spend, and everybody that's ever met me said, what radio station are you with again, Phil? What now? What radio network are you? And I'd never been in radio. Don't ask me why. I had my head in my ass all those years. I love announcing. I have the booming voice. I have the knowledge. I have the projection. It's off the cuff. Someone said, oh, that's Phil Whipple. Nobody can read shit like that off the paper that fast. That's going to be Whipple talking. It was rocking. I had the time of my life. And I said, why didn't I, like Moody, right from down the road where I was in Central Vermont, why didn't I hang out with Ken Squire and start announcing at Thunder Road a fucking catamount? Why didn't I follow Moody's route and do what Moody's doing? Because I didn't have life enough. I had my head in my anus for too long, and I stuck in the Northeast Kingdom. I didn't want to leave the Northeast Kingdom. I was something wrong with me, I guess. I didn't pursue the announcing part of the sport for all these decades. I don't know why, but I guess writing was my forte, and I'd like to still think it is my forte. You guys seem to feed off what I'm doing for journalism down there, and I have no intentions of slowing down on that part of it. But do I want to get on the microphone some with you, Rodriguez, and with you, Mr. Chaffee, down there sometime and do some color? I'd love nothing more.
Famous last words.
Uh-oh. That was a can of worms he just opened right there.
How about a trio?
Yes, it was. Yeah, well, you asked, you son of a gun. So.
Yeah.
Hey, I finally got to see your truck series in action at Texana the other weekend.
Oh, you did? Talk to me. I understand you got to see those boys. That thing has changed. The whole landscape in that thing has changed with the Tracy boys. Would you agree that you got the Barbers and you got, some fresh faces and stuff? It was nice that George and Mr. Fortier launched that thing and got it rolling, but it's beginning to have more potential. Was it pretty decent racing, my friend?
The count was a little low for what I would like to have seen, but the quality of the trucks were there. Aaron Letty put an ass whooping on them, but that battle there for second, third, and fourth was really entertaining. And it's a different take on it. The engines sound completely different than anything else on dirt. And so they put on a really good show for the fans. The fans seem to like them. Trucks are the official car of Texas, like Rodney likes to say. But yeah, that's the first time I got a chance to check them out was when they raced in Texana a couple of weeks ago.
Man, I'm glad that you did have a chance. And that might be more of a novelty than anything else because it's a street stock with a pickup body. And you're right, they sound a little numb, and they don't have the nuts to really come off the corner good. And but Mr. Barber, Chuck Barber explained to me, said, it's a totally different dynamic, Phil. I tried to set one of them up like an asphalt rig and get it to all four to hunker down and go through the corner. It washed up so fast I was out in with the bullpen. He said, you got to get them to roll over on the right and lean up so you can kind of look down at the turf on the right side. And then once they roll up, kind of get them off the corner and then feather the gas and get them off the turn. They're kind of a funky beast. But the novelty, the appeal, and like you said, the value of the visual identity, I think it's an identity thing, the visual identity of sexy pickups, punching the gas, spinning them around, going around and around, that's what I always thought was the allure of the Texas Dirt Truck Series. And if the Tracy boys play that right and market it right and leverage it right, they can continue to grow that thing, I think.
That's good.
Yeah,
it was a really good show. They put on a really good show, but I thought I'd tell you, I finally got a chance to see him after all the years of reading about him. When you do all the PR stuff.
Yeah, all the years you're reading about him because Whipple was writing all the press releases, right?
That's right.
Guys, I'm sorry to run long. Thank you again for this opportunity. For what you guys do for me. I'm so lucky to have you as a media partner and an affiliate. And I promise you, Rodney, I'm going to get more and more involved with this Revved Up Sports Show. I've got notes in front of me here now, some things I want to discuss with you about what to do to enhance this show and add a little bit more national flavor and national color. It's up to you, brother. You run this jet. I'm just a kind of a guest on it. But anytime you want to utilize me, boys, to enhance this thing and to add more coverage, I'm all yours, gentlemen, and
Man,
thank you again.
And I got to tell you, man, thank you so much for reaching out. I mean, because you really did. I mean, you made the show look golden. I mean, with the work you were doing. I mean, just so comprehensive. I mean, everything that you did. Thanks for the trust in us. I mean, it's a great. Again, I mean, I truly say from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you for making us look good, dude. It is much appreciated.
Oh, it's my pleasure, guys. I have huge respect for you and Bobby. You guys are long-time respected people down there. You have a wicked following. People kind of hover on what you say, and I'm blessed to have a connection with you. And I'll take a moment to say how blessed I am to continue to be a part of Chris David's team. You know, running your Facebook, doing a little stuff, input with your Facebook page now, looking at your numbers, and then look at where Chris David has taken that company.
Mm-hmm.
We have a model here. We have a business model here to follow with what Chris and Harry have done with that thing. And so to continue to piggyback off of them, to complement one another, well, it's just going the benefit. Who the real winners, I'd like that both of you hopefully will agree, will be the Texas race fans.
That's right.
That's the goal.
That's what it's all about.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. We'll just cover it more thoroughly and better for them. Oh, and we'll throw a little national event coverage in for them too, so they can learn what goes on outside the Lone Star State. Just refining the product and working together, collaboration, and I think we'll all come out winners of it, buddy. So thank you again, and you gentlemen have a wonderful evening.
Totally agree, man. Thanks so much. Great job, dude. Great job.
Great job.
Thank
Feel free to get credentials under Russ anytime you want, Phil.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, I'll take care of you. 250 credentials. Just save your pennies there, Hawaii. The great Hawaiian traveler. Save a couple of them Hawaiian McDonald's dollars, Taffy. If you save back on a little bit of McDonald's money at Hawaii, you can afford to get a cheap, coach flight up to New England. And I promise you, boys, and think about it, 2 years from now for the 50th edition, you know now how big this friggin' 250 is.
Boom,
Come
I'm
up
going.
To the 50th
That's right. It does sound like it'd be fun.
Come up to the announcers booth and be our guests at the 50th annual. I promise you both the time of your lives.
You damn right. I will be there. Write it down. Absolutely. And
hey, you guys heard it. You Texans, you just heard Rodriguez. He's coming to the 50th annual Oxford 250.
Yeah.
Join him, my friends.
Yeah.
And good night, gentlemen.
Right, man. Take care, buddy. We'll talk soon.
All right, brother. Thank you now.
You bet, man. Take care.
Yes, sir.
Whew.
The one and only.
I need that energy, man. It's like tomorrow morning when I wake up and I don't want to do my work.
Don't want to get up out of bed.
I need that energy right there.
We thought TC Speaks had a lot of energy.
I tell you what, Phil. He did such a great job down there. He was pounding the pavement. He seriously took it. The nice thing about Phil was, he did the stuff, some of the voice stuff, but the stuff that he would write.
Oh yeah,
it's like, man, and that's why I had a friend that actually, not Gina, but somebody else that actually messaged me and is like, I know that ain't your ass down there.
Yeah,
because that shit is written way too well.
It was written. I was like,
yeah.
Neither one of us is going to be up there.
Yeah, it's like there's no run-on sentences. Nothing is misspelled. The punctuation is all in line. I know that's not either one of you knuckleheads that are down there or up there trying to do this, but that is great coverage. And what a race! To talk to Cash, winning that race, and like we talked about with him, he had been chasing this for such a long time. He's won all these big money races, but that's the one that he really wanted to win, and he wins it with a car all beat to shit. What does that tell you?
It's a battle it's a battle to the end. That's what it is. That's the way we've seen some of the snowball derby cars look towards the end of the races and stuff like that. But they, I think it's great that we did get to bring a little New England flair to Texas, man, with a little bit of inside coverage that nobody thought that they'd see. Hell, including us there for a little bit.
Nobody else did it. No damn body else did it.
Just that other one that starts with the 5. That's all.
Well, yeah. They did a good job. Those guys. They got it covered. They've got the rights to it. They do a good job. But I got to tell you what Phil did there. That was good. This was a good show. You get Michael Dabney and then Clayton Green. Dabney and Green for kids that we watch racing legends. Those guys grew up, and they both do really well on the air. I'd like to say.
Yeah, they did good.
They did really good. And then you got the race winner there with Cash Money. Cassius Clark wins, and Phil Whipple rounds it all out. What a great night of #Real Race Talk extended version. We might go 3 hours next time.
Maybe. Actually, speaking of Will wanting Phil wanting to grow it up a little bit. Hell, if we just had a couple of sponsors and had a few more commercials, we'd be all right. We would be 3-hour show.
Well, we did have the Advanced Auto Parts Hotline tonight, so that was good.
That's right.
So
Don't forget
baby steps.
If you have a need for accessories and or parts and pieces for your automobile, truck, or SUV, or anything under the sun, check out our friends at Advanced Auto Parts.
And we have these koozies too that we'll give them away, but we prefer to sell them.
We need to give away to the guy that won the fantasy league.
That person's going to get a TV.
If he keeps it up. I know who it is.
Yeah. I don't know who it is.
I'll tell you who it is off the air. I'm pretty sure I know who it is. He'll probably love a koozie because I think he won it last year.
Oh, nice. RevvedUpSportsShow.com. Click shop. Shop.
And hopefully we'll have an expanded menu of items. So drop a line in the line here on the Facebook stuff if you're interested in Revved Up Sports Show shirts, not the polos, but regular everyday racing shirts. So
we ain't making no thongs like Jake Wright Racing.
No.
Unless we have models.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Facebook or to the YouTube feed.
Unless we have models.
Unless we have models, you're right.
Not men.
But yeah, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also hit that little bell down there at the bottom. Once you get subscribed, you hit the bell, you know when we go live. Looking at doing some YouTube-only stuff coming up here as we get ready to cover some of the bigger stuff throughout the season. So don't forget to support our YouTube channel. RevvedUpSportsShow.tv will take you right there.
That's right. All this stuff archived at RevvedUpSportsShow.com. Thanks to everyone for being a part of the show. Thanks for everyone watching it, listening to it, and all the great guests. Bobby? Have a great week, my man.
I'm gonna try. It's starting out better than I thought, but we'll see how it goes.
Holiday weekend.
I did get a fortune cookie today that said my wildest dream will come true here in a little bit. That's paraphrasing, but that's what it said.
Okay, we can restart the music for this. So what would be that wildest dream?
Hold on, let me see. I still have it in my pocket.
Here we go.
It says your fondest dream will come true within this year. And I was like, well, shit, that doesn't narrow it down any. It's got pretty good lottery numbers.
Hey, that works.
And whatever wins, right?
Yeah, that's right. Southeast folks, man, you're in our thoughts. I mean, it's tough. Happens too often. Just be well. Let's think good stuff for them. Be nice to someone. You never know what they're going through. You're going to feel better as well afterwards. This was a great program. We are back maybe next Tuesday. Holiday, right?
Can't do Tuesday.
Why's that?
That's the draft.
Oh, that's right. We'll be back next week some point.
We'll know when you know.
That's right. Watch the Facebook and at RevvedUpATX on Instagram and Twitter. All right. We're done. Extended version, and you all have a great week and a great 3-day weekend. #Real Race Talk from Texas. It is the Revved Up Sports Show.